the Assistant Superintendent's report.
Good evening. I'd like to begin with our life safety report and capital improvement report tonight. As Dr. Skinkis mentioned, the Facility Advisory Council met on December 1st to review the quarterly business review from Aramark. Marianne, if you could jump to board book page 20, please. And at this point, I will turn it over to Joel Hatchie, our facilities manager, to highlight some important things in this report.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for allowing us this time tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about our facilities operations. The first piece of this really, and again, I'll just touch on some of the salient points in it because there's a lot of information, but the first piece is the custodial piece, and certainly germane to the conversation tonight. On our end, clearly this semester sanitizing has been the priority. So that's kind of where we've shifted our focus on the custodial end. When the pandemic began, we switched from the custodial, we switched from our daily cleaner to a daily cleaner and sanitizer, which is kind of our protocol anyway we do during the flu season and that, but it's also the sanitizer that we use. It's EPA registered. It's with Aramark, we use it in hundreds of medical facilities and hospitals, so it's the same product that we use in those kinds of places. And along with that, too, to help reduce the transmission, we've kind of shifted our operations to sanitizing touch points on a highly frequent basis. We've got by touch points, I mean these are common touch points. Like door handles, guardrails. In restrooms, and we do that several times during the day, all day long. About every hour we go through and hit just about all of those spots where the building is occupied. Also because it's a different kind of work, we verify it in a different kind of way too. Typically we do inspections, and we still do those, for the cleaning, and those are more kind of visual ones, and we can see pretty clearly if something's been cleaned or not, and there's some information in there about that. But we also, because the sanitizing is kind of a different process, and it's not something you can visually detect, the way that we inspect that is we spray areas with a fluorescent spray, and then to verify that it's been cleaned, we can come back with a black light and check and ensure that it gets done. So this helps us to, obviously it helps us to verify that, helps our, ensure some accountability with the guys that are doing the work. And it's something that Aramark does kind of throughout its business, both in educational facilities and in hospital facilities. At the classroom level, obviously, I'm sure you're aware, we provide sanitizer and wipes in every classroom office, all those kinds of places as well. Prior to the start of the school year, too, we went through and socially distanced all the classrooms with kind of giving the priority to, creating ample teaching space, an ample, that was within the guidelines. Give the teachers kind of room to move and still be at a safe distance, that kind of stuff we still continue to do. I know you guys see all the signs and the markings on the floors and those kinds of things. On the maintenance piece of this. One of the first things that ventilation is an important factor in mitigating things. And fortunately, when we did when we had the renovation, the large renovation, 12 years ago, one of the things that that was a big part of that renovation was increasing the ventilation. And we're fortunate in that we have the equipment that allows for, for that high level of ventilation. And that means mixing in outside air, into the building and into the spaces, the teaching spaces and spaces like this. One thing we were able to do too to kind of increase that ventilation rate, the amount of times that the air gets exchanged inside each of the spaces for outside air, is that we run the systems longer. So in other words, before everybody gets here in the morning, it's been running, and you're starting with fresh air. We run it afterwards to continue to provide that fresh air. Another maintenance item that we did just prior to the start of school was we replaced any of the fixtures in the building that were manual. And by fixtures, I mean like flush valves on toilets or sinks, sink handles and things like that. We replaced all of those things with touchless handles. There's about 83 of those that we did. So, essentially, it's just one less touch area and one less transmission point for people to, potentially transmit the virus. There were another number of other accommodations that we did in the classrooms and in some of the office spaces and that, obviously working with Kristen to provide air purifiers, barriers, certainly all the PPE that's necessary. We have a healthy stock of all of that, and we use it pretty, we go through it. The other piece then of kind of our departments, kind of three departments. We got custodial, maintenance, and grounds. This is not necessarily something that's pandemic related, but one of the things on the grounds piece of it is this year, prior years to this year, we contracted out all our plowing services in the lots and in the zoo lot and Rockefeller and that. And this year we were able to purchase a truck and it's a nice truck, an F-250. It's certainly a great truck for the purpose that it's going to serve, and it's going to allow us a couple of things. One, it's obviously we avoid the cost of the contractor, but then also too, it allows us a little more flexibility and versatility. We're not kind of at the mercy of the contractor either. In other words, we can get on things, just as soon as they're available. We can do things during the school day to make it a little bit, to make it safer, and we can, tend to the activities we'll eventually have, on the weekends and over the and over those kinds of times too, on off days. So that's essentially the one note of grounds I think that is kind of worthy of attention. The other, I think the last thing on there, Mary Ann, is the people piece. And I just wanted to, on this, just highlight a couple of our employees that, because we have a staff here that's been, with Aramark, with the district here for a long time. The people that I mentioned that go through the day, that do the sanitizing and that, 3 of them are on this list here. And between them, they have about 60 years of experience. They're very dedicated, and they're and it's a difficult job, and I think that they do it very well. And they're experienced, and they know the people here, and they have relationships, with the staff, and the idea too is certainly, and they accommodate, all the staff requests too. So that's kind of just a quick overview on the first, kind of 8 pages of that report.
I'd like to jump in and highlight on Board Book page 29. Marianne, you might have to zoom out depending on the format of what it looks like. But one of the things that Joel didn't cover under the maintenance report is as a part of the senior class gift, they also contributed financially to this. But we had an old computer lab that we were using for Clarion, and we needed a space, if you remember hearing from the blended learning report, we needed a space for the students to go in the future of that blended learning program. And so Joel gave this room a complete facelift. So this is what the old room looks like. Again, it's easier to see on your computer, so you need to zoom out a little more. But Joel's a very humble person, and so if you pay attention to the left of this picture on your computer, you'll see a really old, built-in bench. And after doing the facelift, we wanted to get rid of that bench too. That would have been a custom bench, costing the district $7,000, which is not affordable. And Joel suggested that we look into buying the material to match the other side of the bench. So that's not the custom bench, that's the one we purchased. And on the other side, you'll see Joel built an entirely new bench for $500 to match. And that's the type of stuff that Joel does with his staff on behalf of, for the district, that he does on a regular basis that often goes unnoticed. But this room is already a very popular room, even with the limited students that we do have in the building. And so I'm hopeful that once we have students back, it will be used for its true purpose, the blended learning space. But Joel treats this building like it's his home, and this is just an example of how he goes above and beyond to really, take care of the building as a whole.
Marianne, can you maybe zoom out to 10%? It might maybe be that small, just so they can get the whole landscape of the...
Smaller.
Smaller.
So keep going. Smaller. So you could hit the minus too, yeah. And I'll go back to the other picture. So scroll up. So you can see on the left, that's the bench that Joel created there. That old built-in bench with that really wood piece in the back that nobody could sit on. Joel took that out and then built that whole new bench and upholstered it himself. So we're really grateful for all of the work Joel does. And kind of along the lines of that, if we go to Board Book page 32, and this one, for whatever reason, Marianne, you're going to need to zoom in. Don't know why it's showing up that way. But this begins the life safety report and update. And this is a tracking document, and following it is a detailed list of all the life safety work. So on this page, once Marianne gets it up, you'll see that we have 11 items left to complete in our life safety report. Life safety reports are done every 10 years. And a majority of the work that is left is involving installing new handrails and guardrails. So in the upcoming months, the board will see a bid and some quotes in regards to that as well. But the district anticipates having an estimated balance when we're all done with life safety items of $6,779.06. That's guaranteed. We do also anticipate an additional $185,000 in savings from flood mitigation that we've already done, but we can't necessarily claim those savings yet because we want to make sure we close out life safety and we don't have any other flood issues. We haven't had any since we did the mitigation, but we just want to be sure. And the reason, you can see in that yellow box, but the reason we were able to really accomplish everything without needing additional money is because Joel and his Aramark staff have done a lot of the work in-house. And as a result, that money that we saved has been used to offset other life safety projects without needing to tap into other district funds. So, Joel's really done a phenomenal job with that with his staff. And now I want to turn it over to Joel, who would touch on one of the life safety focuses for the past several years, which has been our roofs. Marianne, that's on Board Book page 36.
Okay, yeah, and this is our, on that plan there, you can see that the areas that, the white areas are roofs that we've completed during this life safety cycle.
So that's going back from 2013 to 2020, up until now, correct?
Till now, correct.
Right.
So as you can see, it's a very large percentage of the roofs. The remaining roofs were done during the 2008 renovation. The kind of, I don't know what you call that color, but the colored ones were done during the last renovation in 2008 and 9, and those are through, the warranties on those roofs extend through 2029. So as we go through our life safety cycle, it's a 10-year cycle. There's potential that and this cycle will end in 2023. So there's a potential that some of these roofs will fall in there. And typically the process is when we get to there, we would assess the conditions and stuff like that and kind of identify which ones would necessarily be, not all of them necessarily will need to be replaced during that.
So the orange sections would be from 2020, somewhere between 2024 and 2034?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Joel, I just want to take a minute. Obviously, you and I have been working together all this time. We've endowed, whether it's from the stadium project to all these roof projects, the pool, redoing the pool, HVAC. I think, and I know Mr. Smithing has been on the facilities committee, Mr. Jacobs, the fact that you saved this district over $500,000 by being able to coordinate projects with your own team, using local contractors, problem-solving things. I don't think it goes, far enough to win. I mean, exactly what Kristen, and I just want to echo that. You do treat this place like your own house. You do treat this, the money you're spending and the things you're doing, and it's just been great to have you on staff. We do really appreciate the dedication that you and your team show to the high school, so I do appreciate that. And I know you still wanted to touch on one last thing, the green initiatives.
Sure.
But I just seeing how much roofs and all the construction we've addressed and HVAC and the money you've saved so that we could do some other things that we were not awarded life safety dollars for, but still were able to complete those projects. We do appreciate that.
Thank you. I have a very good crew. Burham, our night manager, you've probably seen him around here. Very talented guy, very sharp, and I get very good direction from Kevin and Kristen, obviously, in the committees. The last piece of at least I think this report is the subject. We just talk a little bit about some of the green initiatives we've done here. There's the first piece is lighting upgrades. Over the course of the years, we've replaced several thousand lighting fixtures with LEDs. The incentives are there. The reduction in energy is really significant. In some places, we're using a quarter of the energy we were using for lighting, and we do the work ourselves, so we don't really incur any cost that way. So there's a kind of what we've done so far and what the plan is going forward. There's a kind of a building map of that. Essentially, we typically will do about anywhere from about 500 to 1,000 light fixtures each summer. And so we want, with that pace, we'll be done here in it'll be about 4 or 5 years. It depends on opportunities and different things within the building. One of the things that we look for when we kind of identify or choose projects is the return on the investment. Is a term short enough to kind of make it make sense? Does it make, financial sense? And that kind of drives what we do. We've done, when we did the first phases of it, what we tried to do was use the phases, the areas that are most occupied. where the lights are on the longest, where the savings was potentially the greatest. So that's kind of the driving, or the guiding strategy as we go through the process. The other, just compliance with the Illinois Green Clean Schools Act, we exceed all of their requirements. We've had a couple of energy assessments within the building, where we've gotten some help, some subsidized through ComEd and that, some kind of assessments of the building, how are we using our energy, where can we find efficiencies, those kinds of things. And we've implemented, everything that was feasible that pretty much that they've suggested. But really kind of the last part though is really about the kind of going forward stuff. What's our, what are we looking at? What are like kind of the other pieces that we want to incorporate into our energy strategy? And there's on the bullet points there, we have we're looking into the feasibility of adding some charging stations. We did install some infrastructure. We do have some roughed-in conduit and that to get to kind of get that part of it started. But there's other things that potentially affect the feasibility of that we're that we're assessing. There's some air handler upgrades, some HVAC controls upgrades that would potentially allow us to do be even more efficient with how we operate our HVAC, that's the biggest energy user of the building is the HVAC piece, even more significant than the lighting. So that's kind of a big one. We're also investigating rooftop solar panels. Now that we've completed the replacement cycle and this life safety cycle of the roofs, that becomes something we can look at a little closer, because there's different technology. The stuff that we're looking at wouldn't necessarily, it'd be on the roof, but you wouldn't have to put holes in the roof to attach it. It would be they make ballasted systems where it's just held by weights, by a weighted platform that just kind of sits up there. We have some folks that we're talking to about those kinds of things. The fact of the matter is the roofs are essentially the only real estate we have left here that we're not using all the time. All of everything else is pretty much being used. So the only kind of asset we have real estate-wise now is the roof. And so if we can take advantage of that, and the incentives have gotten better, and there's ways that this is becoming more feasible. So those are kind of the things that we're looking at. And,
any questions for Joel or Kristen on the facilities report?
Question?
No.
Well, it's always exciting, Joel. I know it might be. This is stuff that I like a lot, so I truly appreciate you and have for the 4 years. So it's a job well done.
Great job, Joel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank